Well, President Trump, he laid out his vision last night for what he calls the renewal of the American dream in his first address to a joint session of Congress since returning to office. Now, Oakland University political science professor Dave Dulio was watching the whole thing, and he joins us now with some thoughts on the address. Professor Dulio, a lot to unpack here, really.
Oh, you broke up there on me, Bree. Can you repeat that for me?
I just said there's a lot to unpack. I mean, there was so much happening from protests, representatives wearing pink blazers with the Constitution written on it. It was just so much happening. Where should we even start?
Well, I think we have to start with the tone of the evening, and I think confrontational and tense are two words that describe it pretty well. And you mentioned some of the protests. We had a member for the first time in memory be escorted out because of his behavior. And that's, of course, Representative Al Green from Texas, continually interrupting President Trump for a while. And it may not seem like it, but the House of Representatives does have rules for decorum, and he was judged to have broken them. So he was asked to leave. We certainly had the visible protest, the audible protest, and honestly, President Trump was responsible for some of it himself with some finger pointing, some name calling. And, I think it led to that confrontational atmosphere.
And one of the things that President Trump brought up yesterday was his expansion of U.S. territorial holdings, specifically when it comes to the Panama Canal and Greenland. I mean, why is he paying so much attention to these two entities?
That's a very good question. The messaging on both of those was a little different, and he actually, I think, changed his tune on Greenland. He mentioned support for Greenland and its citizens determining sort of their future, and if they want to be part of the United States, that he would welcome them. That's different than what he has said in the past. And I think the case for including Greenland or absorbing it is on a national security basis. It's certainly a strategic place in the world that would offer land for air bases and maybe naval bases. So I think that's the key point. The Panama Canal is less. Well, I think it's not that it's less clear. It's maybe a less clear path to it. He said last night we're going to just take it back, and I think that's a much longer story to how that would actually work out. And again, it's a strategic place in the world that as you know, controls shipping of goods all over the world.
I want to talk about Elon Musk for a second. I mean, we know there's so much controversy surrounding him right now and the position that he may be holding. But despite that, President Trump, he gives him his blessing, his approval. What do you think about that? I mean, despite so much going on with the federal employees.
Yeah, Elon Musk is front and center, and he was certainly last night. He got an ovation from Republicans, and I think that this is a really interesting thing for viewers to watch and to examine on their own. Right, when Trump or Musk talk about waste and inefficiency and other spending problems that they see, that's really pretty highly supported by the public. Nobody wants waste, fraud, or abuse to be anywhere near taxpayer dollars. But what's interesting is when we start to get into the specifics of what is defined as waste, fraud, and abuse, that's where some pushback comes, even among members of our own congressional delegation. Right, when we hear about folks that are let go from VA hospitals, people start to ask, okay, well, how's that going to affect care for veterans in our area? And maybe they find a program that they favor. So while at a 30,000 foot view, criticism of waste, fraud, and abuse is really popular. It's when we drill down into those other areas where some questions start to get asked.
Professor DiIulio, I mean, what do you think is next after he addressed Congress in the session? I mean, what do you think is coming after this?
More of the same. I think you're going to continue to see executive actions pour out of the White House. At some point, Congress is going to have to get involved with some spending decisions, and as we've talked about before, the only way that these cuts that have been identified by Elon Musk or somebody else in Doge is to have a congressional act and to have Congress do a rescission bill where they pull back that spending. That's the only way that money doesn't get spent. They are going to, at some point down the road over the summer, do 1 or 2 budget reconciliation bills. And that's going to, I think, be where we see the vast majority of the legislative work around taxes and spending be taken up this year. And I think beyond that, it's tough to see a lot of legislation get through Congress just because the two parties are so divided. Trump is such a lightning rod, especially for Democrats. And, there's not much common ground at the moment. So I think a lot of this you're going to see 2 areas of action. Number 1, executive orders. Number 2, that budget reconciliation work that happens this summer.
All right, Professor DiIulio, thank you so much for joining us. We will talk to you next week.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Of course.